Everything you're about to hear is for entertainment purposes only. Listen, have some fun, but don't ever do, believe, or promote anything they say. They're idiots.
Guys, hold up. You should know, this ain't for everybody. Welcome to Savagely Loud. What's happening, people? Guys, welcome back to the show for the people that understand that facts divided by feelings equals failure. I'm Cliff, I'm your host, and as always, I got big bad Dave Anderson, the Viking, here with me as my co-host now. If you haven't heard, he's permanent on the show. You can't get rid of the motherfucker. He's like a cockroach, just won't go away. But before we get to him, we got some fucking housekeeping to do. If you want to help us out, help get these words out, get these truths out, you can follow me at Savagely Loud on Instagram is where I'm most active. On that page, you're going to find two links. One of those links is the Savagely Loud podcast page. If you could please follow me there too, that would be greatly appreciated, as that will inevitably be my backup page. Plus, it helps get the show known. So go follow me over there. The other link you're going to find is a simple link tree. Anywhere you want to see my rants or hear my bullshit, you can find it there, easy peasy. Outside of that, Facebook, X, and Rumble at Savagely Loud, YouTube at Savagely Loud Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe. And you can email me in at savagelyloud@gmail.com. I strongly suggest you do, because as I always tell you, the DMs are full. I appreciate you keeping them coming, but they are full. Last but not least, don't forget to like, comment, and share the material. It really does help us out. And for the love of all the things that you love, rate and review the show. Apple, iTunes, Spotify. It doesn't take much to really, really help out the show. That all being said, Big Dave Anderson, the Viking. How we doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing, man?
I got zero complaints.
Yeah, I think that's just the norm, man. We never have complaints. I mean, we're just happy to be alive. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, when you almost die as many times as we have, life becomes a little bit more appreciated on
Exactly.
a daily. If you're watching, you notice that there is another man on that screen. He's been awfully good boy and being quiet since we've been doing our bantering. But I have with us one of the most special guests that I've ever welcomed to the show, my close personal friend, a master of movements and the most cancelable man, in my opinion, that you could ever fucking come across. Scott Siverts, how are we doing?
Doing good, brother, man. I appreciate you having me on. It means a lot. I watched you grow. I've seen how big your platforms have become across the board, and you've also really gotten talented on the mic. I mean, you see the progression. You know, they say repetition is the mother of skill, and you've gotten a lot of reps in here in the podcast game. You're a very talented guy, and I'm proud of you to see you blow up.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that deeply, man. You have no idea. We met, let's get into how we met, because we met through our other close mutual friend, Dominic Izzo, who I openly credit for giving me my start. Like he got me out there, he got the fire lit, and then he kind of let me run, and he guided me as I needed it. Dude's an incredible motherfucker, but he's how we met. He invited me on a show, and it was you and Maddie Whack and Joey Nobody and Lola Christina X. Dude, what a wild show that was. And like you said, you've actually gotten to see everybody elevate, and that was awesome meeting you back then.
Yeah, I mean, you got to credit Izzo. I would say we're like some of his acolytes, kind of. Whereas, early on when I first got started, before I even had a guest on the podcast, I had reached out to him because I'd followed him for years, and he was an outspoken guy. I tend to like people that offend everybody and piss everybody off on both sides, and he does. He pisses everybody off, and he's when he says, like, he puts it out there, he'll talk with anybody, he'll sit down with anybody, he'll do a podcast with anybody. It's true. I had no followers. I reached out to him, I DM'd him, and I said, "Hey, I'm starting a podcast. Would you be interested in coming on? I'd love to have a conversation." And he was like, "You tell me when, I'll be there." And he didn't know me. And then we built a pretty close relationship just through social media. And then we exchanged phone numbers. And then he would call me randomly and just have a conversation with me. And then we did a few more shows together, and he said, "Hey, how would you feel about coming on every Wednesday?" Because I remember you were Mondays,
Yeah.
and Wednesdays were me and Matty Whack. And for about a year, a little over a year, we would show up every Wednesday and do the Rants of Izzo show.
Yep. Yeah, I was Mondays and you were Wednesdays, and I think that's how he brought me on. I think it was in the powwow with everybody, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot to take in all at one time. We got a fucking transport star, we got a fucking hired gun, we got ex-military on a movement. Like, holy shit, this is a wild ride.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, Dominic is, like we've said, you can't be loved by all, but you can't be hated by all. And he definitely ain't got no hate from me. I will stand behind that motherfucker any day of the week that he needs me.
Ditto.
So I wanted to let's address one thing real quick, because you are the host of the Burn Pit podcast, okay? And I've seen online, on social media, the comments, this and that, because the Burn Pit's not running right now because of a lot of shit actually that we will get into. That people think. Let me phrase it that way. People believe that because of the chain of events that took place, that canceled your podcast, that you gave into the system, you gave into the man, and you stifled yourself because they canceled you, so to speak. But I know the truth. I know the reality of things, and I think we should take just a second to get that out on why the Burn Pit podcast is not currently running right now. And it has nothing to do with you being canceled. They tried to cancel you, but you're an uncancelable motherfucker. Like, you're Scott Siverts. Like, nobody's canceling you unless you agree to it, and you ain't agreeing to this. But there is a more heartfelt, deeper reason behind this, and I think we should get into that really quickly. So why don't you take a second and let everybody know what's going on?
Yeah, sure. It's about a year ago. Matt and I were starting to really get a lot of exposure. We're still really starting to grow. Our YouTube channel had gotten monetized. And for those that don't know, to get monetized, you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours, and then they would review your content, and then you would be eligible for monetization. So we got monetized. We had nearly 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. I had a TikTok that had like 40,000 followers, and Maddie was blowing up on Instagram too. And we ended up on the same day. Maddie and I both agreed this is the day that got us canceled. The Liberty Veterans Association reached out to us to host Philip Torney. Philip Torney was a survivor of the USS Liberty attack, June 8th, 1967. He had just gone on Candace Owens. And here they reached out to us and they said, "Hey, we want Philip Torney to come on your show." And we were like, "Holy crap, that's amazing." And we go, "Oh, we'll send you a Zoom link." And they go, "No, we're going to fly him in." So he flew into Pittsburgh. We end up, in hindsight, for the sake of the business that I used to work for, I invited him to lunch after the podcast, and we took a picture in front of like the sign of the bar that I used to work at, so they knew. In hindsight, that probably wasn't the smartest thing. But that same day, we also went live on Stu Peters' show. So here we went live on our show, had Phil Torney on, then we went live on Stu Peters. And after that, there was a Reddit forum that got started, and it just blew up to the point where here I'm on, local news stations asking questions, or answering questions about, my podcast. And then I'm going on radio stations. And then, eventually YouTube shut us down and TikTok banned us. And then there were a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, this was a successful deplatforming." And that's not entirely, true. It sucked getting the YouTube channel taken down, but our full catalog's still on Spotify, still up on Rumble. I still got Instagram and all the different social medias. But the reason why we've slowed down with the production of the podcast and putting out new content, I did one episode in Florida in May with a young kid named Hermes. He's got an Instagram, Chaotic Hermes. He goes out and does the street interviews, and him and I put out sorry to sidebar this, but I put out something on social media, and I was going to be in Florida for a week, and I was interested in filming with whoever wanted to film, because Ian Smith lives down there right where I was going, and him and I connected, and the studio reached out to me and they're like, "We'd love to have you." The studio was super based, so I went down there and filmed with Hermes, but I've put a pause on things because 2 weeks after we got quote unquote canceled, Matt Wakulik got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and he's gone through radiation. He's gone through chemo. He's going through radiation again. And I just, to be honest, I just haven't found the motivation to do it. I have a lack of motivation due to the fact that, my best friend and my co-host is going through treatment for stage 4 cancer. And I have no desire to do the show without the guy. So these people that think that they've won something or they've gotten me to acquiesce, they are sadly mistaken. That's not the case. When somebody that close to you gets diagnosed with this, horrific, with cancer, stage 4 cancer, I can't find myself to continue to do the thing without him next to me. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, and I was friends with you guys. I'm also friends with Matty Wack. Matty Wack's fucking awesome, and I mean, talk about a fucking warrior. This dude's going through everything. He's still currently going through everything he just said he's going through, and he's still on the mission. He's still on Twitter or X. He's in his spaces. Yep. I hear him talking. I'll jump into the rooms every now and then. And you were telling me a bit ago that not only is he still on the mission, but he's still got that positive attitude. Like, we're almost there, brother. We're going to fucking beat this shit. No problems, and then we're going to get back at it and blah, blah, blah. And that mental attitude, that perspective of life to be dealing with something that absolutely catastrophic and be able to be like, dude, don't feel bad, telling somebody else as you have that, don't feel bad. We're almost there. We'll get through this, blah, 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 blah. But, and also remain on the mission is like, the dude's a fucking monster, like in all the best ways. Love you, brother. If you ever watch this, so
he'll watch it. He'll watch this. Yeah. His spirit has not broken. He doesn't have a broken spirit whatsoever. He still has that 1776 spirit. And, that I think that's what's really keeping him going is getting back to this. But yeah.
So you were, before all that happened, I guess let's talk about the situation that you were in. So we've got you've got the Burn Pit podcast, and if I remember correctly, I had watched an interview with you or something, and you're like, when I started the Burn Pit, it was just to have interesting conversations, and the whole of society wanted to concentrate on this particular demographic of people, so it kind of just became that. And then and what we're talking about, what I'm talking about here, is what the biggest issue, we'll call it, let's forego the word problem, but the biggest issue that people see is Israel's influence over the United States, in all facets. And you guys, I watched your show a lot, or listened to your show a lot, and because you guys are so intelligent, like, you guys have the history, you have the eloquence to be able to orate this story that captivates people and makes people want to become involved. And Maddie's got that fucking that bravado that just gets all the people out here, all the dudes are like, yeah. Maddie's their dude, and so you had it, and it just kind of became, you guys actually became the voice of the people that wanted to question Israel's influence over the United States. That's how I took it, is, just listening to your show. Like, you guys were the guys. Like, we know Stu Peters is huge. He's very outspoken. Like, you can't keep a gate on that guy. It's all right. It's great. But you guys, the Burn Pit was the thing. And then you got found, didn't you?
Yeah. No, I mean, the funny thing is, when you get in that space, when I'm in that space, that it's the JQ space. And for those that don't know what JQ, it's just the Jewish question. When you get in that space, you make enemies on both sides. You really do, because on the left side, there's cancel cultures on both sides, but on the left side, when they think, you're anti-Semitic, racist, they'll come for you. On the right side, if you're not pro-Israel and you claim to be a Christian, they'll come for you there too. And it also makes for strange bedfellows too, because it's like you get in that space and all of a sudden it's like, half my following are like Muslims, and it's like, holy crap. I'm like, wow, this came out of nowhere. I'm like, I didn't expect that at all. And it's like, Jesus, this space is just unique. It is. It's weird. And we got into that where it's like, we're on the ADL's website now, which I wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
The Anti-Defamation League that was started to defend a rapist, murderer, pedophile. But so here, we get lumped in there. There's an X page called Stop Anti-Semitism. It's got like 240,000 followers, and they listed like the top 10 white nationalist anti-Semites, and it was like, Stu Peters, Jake Shields, Myron Gaines got put on there as a white nationalist. It's like, what's going on with that? But Lucas Gage was on there, Sam Parker, and then Dan Bilzerian, and then you saw Matty Wack and Scott Siverts, and I was like, we made the top 10 list. Nice. So we did. We put a dent in that space to where, we had guys reaching out to us like Dr. E. Michael Jones, Dr. Alan Zabrowski, obviously Phil Torney, Stu Peters. Even, we had Lily Gaddis on. Lily Gaddis, she was really outspoken. She got popular because she went on, Pierce Morgan and said she uses the N-word regularly. And we got into that space big time where everybody was actually coming to us to be like, hey, can we get on your show? And we opened the doors to everybody. And even like, you talked about Tariq Kadora, Joey Nobody. He's Arab, he's Palestinian. Kawa Malahi we had on, and even like some of the bigger names that they're kind of on the left, came to us and were like, we'd love to get on your show, like a Josephine Gilbo, who's a former intelligence officer who's been really outspoken and doing, some of these interruptions at these, the Senate Armed Services Committee and stuff like that. So, we really broke into that space, and people really enjoyed us. And I feel bad for our audience that's been wanting us to come back, but I can't do it alone. Matty Wax, right, got to be next to me. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's an honorable thing. Like anybody that says, you could do it until he gets back, that's the level of honor that you hold for your brother is just like, it's inspiring, and everybody should take some inspiration from it. So, but you said, like, I mean, you rattled off a hell of a list of names, and that just plays right back into what I was saying is, you guys were becoming the guys, and everybody out here, I think, would really benefit from listening to your story, because everybody out here seems to want to be the guy in some sort of aspect, like even me, like I don't want to be the guy. People are starting to make me the guy, not realizing that it's only a matter of time before I notice the dumb shit you do, and I'm going to call you out, and then you're going to hate me, because I attack everybody, but everybody wants to be the guy. And then when you become the guy, the world changes. Like your whole world changes, and you don't really see it. It doesn't happen like in a moment, like you said. It's just all of a sudden it kind of feels like you wake up and you're like, holy shit, there's people everywhere telling me what I should be doing, and this and that and the other thing. There's people cheering and clapping and all this other shit. I have no idea how I got here. But once you achieve that, the world becomes very different. You start getting the attention of people that have the ability to ruin you. And we always hear these stories about how, like these people on the internet, they're like, the fucking Jews ruined me. The fucking Arabs ruined me. The fucking somebody ruined me. And they really didn't. Like you wanted to quit because you got scared because so many people were coming at you in the comments section. But you guys are the embodiment of like, these motherfuckers came at you hard, and they did everything that they could do to possibly ruin your lives. And some of it actually, in the moment it worked. I can see that you still look healthy. You still got some color about your face. You can still smile. So they didn't win, but they made it very difficult. Can we let people know what that process was like? What happened that got you noticed, and what community noticed you? And then what kind of changes did you start seeing around you as you started figuring out what was actually happening behind the curtain?
Yeah. Like I said there with the Philip Torney podcast and appearing on Stu Peters, I think that really got the attention of our detractors. I guess I'll call them that. I'll use that word.
Yeah.
And it really started on Reddit. and Reddit has become like this breeding ground for like, Antifa, Marxist, just complete faggotry. It's horrible. It's Reddit. That's where, it's just cringe. I would say there's just cringe. I call them cringe Reddit faggots. It's just awful. If you, again, in that space, you're going to piss off everybody. But, if you are willing to have a conversation about a Jewish influence or the Jewish lobby here in America, or Israel's influence over our government, or even if you're willing to have a conversation about gender, about race, about you name it, these people don't even want you to have the ability to speak. And, when I went on different news channels and said, if you don't like it, don't listen, they don't have the capability of doing that. They think that if there's somebody out there even saying these things, then they should be cast out of society. That their lives need to be ruined. We not only need to, it's like I kept hearing, well, you have the freedom of speech, but you don't have the freedom of consequence from that speech. And I'm like, okay, so if I can say whatever I want, but if I say the wrong thing about the wrong group, then I have to lose my job. You come after my family. I get death threats. You dox, my previous, business owners and their families and their addresses. It's like, this doesn't seem like free speech, and it's like they it was obvious with the Charlie Kirk assassination that these people hate us way more than we could ever hate them. And with the Charlie Kirk assassination, he's maybe 1/8 of what me and Matty Wack are. And they called him a Nazi. They called him a fascist. And they cheered. They cheered when he got shot in the neck. And what did they say? They were like, oh, well, that's what you get when you talk shit. And it's like, okay, so he deserved to die because he had an opposing view or opposing opinion that you didn't like. And that's really what it boiled down to with us is, we, and Izzo kind of got roped into it too. There was an old clip from the Rants of Izzo that got real popular on Facebook when we were getting canceled, and they were like coming after him a little bit too. But Izzo's uncancelable as well. Like you're not going to get that guy to apologize for anything. But behind the scenes, I've spoke about this on the news and the radio shows and all the appearances I did. But it got to the point where they were coming after my mother. She was a professor at Geneva College here in Beaver Falls, PA. They wanted that college to fire her. They came after my brother, a publication called Raw Story, and a reporter called Jordan Green. My brother's Pentagon. He's at the Pentagon. He's a colonel. He works for the Joint Chiefs. He works under Pete Hegseth. Matty Wack and I filmed a podcast right before Trump was inaugurated, rating the different cabinet appointees that Trump put in. And on the fly, like in only Matty Wack fashion, I said, hey, let's rate these appointees from a scale of 1 to 5, or, let's rate them on a grading scale of A to F. And he goes, I'd like to rate them by how many bullets I'd like to put in them. And he goes, let's do 1 to 5 bullets. And I'm like, all right, so we got a revolver. For the record, I did say, Matty, how dare you? That's one of the things I say to Matt when he says something, crazy. I go, how dare you? And then, Jordan Green from Raw Story took that, podcast and said, these guys called for the execution of Pete Hegseth, and, his brother's on the Joint Chiefs, and his brother has yet to condemn his podcast. And they actually filed, there was a woman, I'm not going to say her name, but there's a woman that filed a complaint with the Inspector General at the Pentagon, and they did a short investigation, and then they had to put out a follow-up story to say that the Inspector General basically told these people to piss off. I mean, that's how I would take it if I were these people. What they ended up doing was, I think at the very least they wanted a statement from my brother condemning his little brother and the podcast, saying I don't have those views. And honestly, I'll be fair here, because in their world, we're the worst of the worst. If you're a nationalist, if you're a Christian nationalist, you're their enemy. And his take, and I spoke with this journalist on the phone, his take was, if there's somebody at the Pentagon that's a high-ranking official that has a brother with these views, there might be a chance that he holds these views too. And I don't want somebody at the Pentagon that has these views dictating foreign policy or operations in our military, which is fair, because I got to tell you, if there was a guy who was a communist that had a podcast and his brother was a colonel or a general at the Pentagon, I would be like, you know what? I don't want some communist Marxist general at the Pentagon. So I can actually say, all right, fair point. But you know, they're demanding a statement from my brother, and they just don't know how that works. I mean, at the top levels like that, if you want to put out a statement or if you want to go on a radio show or a podcast, it has to be authorized by Headquarters Marine Corps. When I had my brother on my podcast, because that was the headline, and it was so deceptive too. The headline of this story was Marine Corps Pentagon high-ranking officer appears on podcast that calls for the execution of Pete Hegseth. Well, my brother appeared on the episode once. And not, you would read that headline and think, oh, he appeared on the episode where they called for that, right? That's not the case. He appeared on a separate episode. So it's very deceptive the way they set that up. So I think at the very least they wanted a statement, but I think ultimately, and I'm going to share some things that I haven't shared with anybody, actually. And I was going to do a separate podcast on my own and put this stuff out there, but I'll take the time real quick and share it with you. My brother when I had my brother on, he was the commander of the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit. It's in Camp Pendleton, California. He was a colonel at the time, and it's a very prestigious position because there's 7 MEUs in the Marine Corps. There's 3 on the East Coast, 3 on the West Coast, and there's 1 in the Pacific off of Okinawa. And there's only about 500 colonels, give or take, at a time in the Marine Corps, and 7 colonels get selected to command these MEUs. My brother was one of 7 colonels that commanded these MEUs. And after he was done with his time there, he got sent to the Pentagon to work for the Joint Chiefs so he could have a joint command position so that he could get promoted to brigadier general. And when he went there, I had a friend that I was stationed with at 29 Palms, California, that was enlisted. He got out, then got commissioned, went back in. He's like a lieutenant colonel. So he would give me like some of the scuttlebutt scuttlebutt, for those that don't know, is like rumors in the military. So he'd give me some of the scuttlebutt going on from time to time at the Pentagon when this story got out there, and the inspector general got notified that, hey, there's a colonel at the Joint Chiefs that's got a little brother who's a douchebag that has a podcast that's talking all kinds of shit, right? And they did an investigation. They cleared my brother of any issues, you know, but these people demanded something put out there, a statement by my brother, and that's not how it works. When I had my brother on the podcast, I had to reach out to Headquarters Marine Corps and ask permission to have him on. And then his command had to give permission. And then we did a Zoom just like this, and there was a Marine in the background, a communications officer that listened to the entire thing and then okayed it to be, you know, put out to the public. And I'll go back. You guys may remember this, you may not. In January 21, there's a lieutenant colonel that was really outspoken about the pullout strategy in Afghanistan by the Biden administration. He was on Facebook. He was doing radio shows, podcasts. He ended up getting court-martialed and getting thrown out because they told him, hey, you can't do that. You can't do this stuff without permission. So even if my brother wanted to put out a statement, let's say my brother went to his boss or the legal team at the Pentagon and said, hey, I'd like to put out a statement just to clear the air here. And, you know, I'm not associated with the podcast. I don't agree with everything my brother said. You know, I'm just a colonel at the Pentagon. I'm just trying to do my job. They would have to either say, okay, yeah, you can put a statement out, or no. So it's not even up to him to do that. But this lieutenant colonel that I'm friends with, he was messaging me on Signal. And he goes, hey, yeah, I heard your brother got cleared of everything. People around here think it's kind of a joke. And how about this? He goes, that reporter or somebody associated with that reporter emailed Pete Hegseth directly. And they accused your brother of funding your podcast and financing. And I said, that's a complete lie. That they don't have any proof, because last time I checked, my bank records weren't subpoenaed, and neither were my brother's. So that's a complete lie. I've never accepted any money from any family members. And then he tells me they not only emailed Pete Hegseth, but they emailed Pete Hegseth's wife, which is insane. And this is how, and really that's when it showed me they don't just want a statement from the guy. They wanted him either removed from the Pentagon completely, or they wanted him to be forced into retirement from the Marine Corps, because he's been in for 36 years. So What ended up happening, I'll wrap this story up nice, and this is going to piss.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
This is going to piss these people off, and I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Fine, I'm going to say it. But so here, what ended up happening was, I get a message from my friend, and he was like, "Hey, congratulations! I heard your brother's getting promoted to brigadier general." And I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah. You know what the funny thing about that is?" He goes, "The way the process works to get promoted, the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of War has to sign off on it. Now, if your wife got an email from a reporter with the last name Siverts in it, you probably recognize that name if that promotion warrant comes across your desk. So all I can envision is Pete Hegseth looking at that promotion warrant, seeing that name, Siverts, and going, yeah, fuck those people. I'm signing that shit." And then he gets promoted. So that story ended happily. And if I'm these people, I'm seething mad. They completely failed. This is a huge loss for them. And it's a huge win for me and my family name. There's a Brigadier General Siverts that's still at the Pentagon. Their efforts failed completely and miserably because they're, again, I'm on the phone with this reporter, and this will tell you everything you need to know about these people. Is he's saying all these things like, "You've said this and you've said that," and I said to him, and this has been a recurring theme for me, that people want me to somehow condemn and disassociate from Matty Wack. This reporter goes, "Yeah, you might not have said it, but you platformed the guy that did." And I go, "Okay, so this is about Matty Wack, then you don't like him." And then I look back at this Jordan Green stories, and he's got going back to 2020, he's got 3 different stories about Matty Wack. He hates him. And I go, "Okay, let me ask you a question." I said, if I were to shut down this podcast and not do another episode, do I have the ability, in your mind, do I get some grace and mercy? Do I have the ability now to go back into society as you see it? Can I have a job? Can I operate in society? Do I get some, mercy here from you? Am I able to be looked at as a member of society now? And he goes, "Well, that's not for me to decide." And I thought to myself, well, this guy hates me and wants me either in a re-education camp or dead or something. So, that's it. And I said, and then on another phone call with the guy, we've talked multiple times on the phone. He was a little bit more cordial the second time. I said, "What's my brother's grave sin here? What's his cardinal sin? Is it because he hasn't condemned my podcast? He hasn't spoken out against it?" He goes, "Yes, his silence is deafening. His silence is speaking volumes." And this liberal guy who's wrote this article doesn't understand how it works. And I'm not going to fault him for it. But in this situation, trying to cancel my brother failed miserably. The Marine Corps and the Secretary of Defense and the Pentagon, have told these people to pretty much piss off. And that's how I would view it if I were them. So knowing this information now, as these people, knowing that my brother, even if he wanted to, couldn't put out a statement, now they can redirect their energy either to headquarters of Marine Corps or Pete Hegseth or the Pentagon, because I'd love to see that story get put out. Scott Siverts on the Savagely Loud podcast makes this comment, and Cliff Moore hosts, and that would be another good one. So good luck to you, Jordan Green. Write that story, okay?
Yeah, it's so, it's so wild because I watched some of that, and I watched some of the fucking, the asshole leftists on the internet talking their shit about Burn Pit and you and Matty, and the one, I forgot what her name was, but she kept saying, "And he wants to hang them all. All he ever says is he wants to hang them. He just wants to hang them." But but the way she put it made it sound like you said that, and that's a Matty Wack thing. And it's not like we should hang everybody. He would say he never. I never heard him say, "We need to go hang all these people. We need to go shoot all these people." He would say, "And I believe they deserve to be hung." It's back to that freedom of speech thing, because is that not part of freedom of speech? Is if I have an emotion like that, why am I not allowed to voice it? I understand that you're not allowed in modern society and civilized society to actually outright call for violence against elected officials and appointed officials. I get that. Nor should you morally, call for violence against these officials. But to say that you can't even say you think they should be put to death, and this falls a lot into my world because I'm very outspoken. I give zero fucks. cancel me. I'll come right the fuck back. Like, it's not a problem, but this shit needs to be said. And sometimes, you know, there's been times where I've crossed a line here and there, or, you know, even to be like, could be perceived as crossing the line. And every time that happens, I always hit them with the same thing. Do we have freedom of speech or do we not? And they will say, well, you have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom from the consequences. And I say, okay, let's go back to the Constitution. Let's go back to the Bill of Rights, and let's go through the list of consequences that it says that you have for using your right to free speech. Because the last time I checked, there wasn't a list of consequences. There was a list of freedoms that you had. This wasn't well, if you say this, then you just got to draw a line over here. There was none of that shit. It was, I get to say what I want, and you get to not like it. If you don't like it well enough to come at me, then you are then subject to consequences because you're trying to inflict damage upon me. Fuck you.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, look, you know, when Matt and I started this thing together, and he came on as the co-host, our motivation was to be the living embodiment of the 1776 spirit. To preach resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. The tree of liberty needs to be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants alike. And to preach that message, that 1776 spirit that says, I'm not going to bow, I'm not going to bend the knee. You know, I'd rather live on my feet than die on my knees. So that was our thing there. And so when it comes to free speech and you know, saying what you want to say, there in society today, there obviously is consequences, because even Turning Point USA, you see they have a database where they've collected everybody, social media accounts that have mocked Charlie Kirk since he got assassinated and things like that. And I think the other day they put out that the 600 accounts or 600 people have lost their jobs because of it. And, you know, that's just kind of a taste of their own medicine. But I don't necessarily agree with that. You know, like if, you know, somebody's working at a Home Depot and they're a leftist and they're a good employee, and their boss knows, like most of these companies, they know where people stand. You're working every day, you know, sure, the purple haired girl with the nose ring, I guarantee you she's not voting for Donald Trump, right? But she works in the section at Home Depot. She's a good employee, and she gets on TikTok and celebrates Charlie Kirk, you know, getting murdered. It is up to the company. It's a private company. They can fire whoever they want to. Based on, you know, social media. Here in Pennsylvania, it's an at-will state, so you can fire at will. You don't really need an excuse to fire anybody. But I'm not, I guess maybe because it happened to me a little bit, maybe, but even prior to that, I wasn't exactly for that. I'm not exactly for people just losing their job because they're exercising their right to free speech. I even told Jordan Green, this reporter on the phone, I said, I support your right to the First Amendment. You know, the First Amendment's not only just the right to free speech, but the right to assembly, the right to the freedom of religion. You can worship who you want, and a free and fair press. So his right to the press, I would defend his right, even if he wants to write these shitty articles about me or come after my brother. I support his right to do that. You know, his language is a little slippery with, you know, the headlines and stuff like that, but it's clickbait stuff. And that's kind of Matt's language is a little slippery too. Like when he says, hey, you know, I'd like to rate him by how many bullets I'd like to put in him. Did he call for the assassination of any of these people? No. Was it kind of like, you know, funny, haha, you know, it's distasteful, it's in poor taste, it's, oh, how dare you, I got it. But that's, you know, he didn't cross any boundaries. In fact, in the article that was written about Matt, this person reached out to the FBI to ask why the FBI hasn't done anything. And they were like, well, he's within the boundaries of free speech. And even when you know, I haven't told this story, even when all that was going on, the FBI offices here in Pittsburgh called me down to their offices and told me that they had they reviewed my content. They said, you haven't violated any, you know, you haven't made any crimes, you haven't committed any crimes, you haven't violated anything. But there's, you know, we believe there's a credible threat to you and your family. This local Antifa group was planning on coming to my house. And at the time too, it was just crazy. I saw, like, there would be people that would like pull up in front of my house, get out and take a picture, and then get back in their car and drive away. And I'm like, what the fuck? These people, like, you know, I got I'm a Ring doorbell, and, you know, I'm looking and I'm like, these people are insane. These people are crazy. Over what? Over because Dominic Izzo said, you know, people in Chicago, we used to call them no tipping Pippin. Like, that's what they're mad about. It's like, what are they mad about here? Because I talked about a dress code in nightclubs, or that there's a hip hop and R&B station in Pittsburgh that, you know, will come into a nightclub and ruin the place. Like, that's what they got mad about. And it's like, everyone knows that's true in Pittsburgh. Everybody, listen, here, I'll tell you this. This is how unaffected I really was in the city. Like, these things right here, this isn't real life. That's not real. I mean, it's not real life. When you go out and you walk around and here, the weekend that I got canceled, I worked at a strip club that weekend, and the owners of the strip club, they didn't give a shit. And I'm working security, and I'm working at a VIP section of the strip club, and there's 3 black guys that come up and surround me, and they go, "Hey, you're that podcast dude, right?" And I pretended like I didn't hear him. I went, "Huh?" And they went, "You're that podcast dude, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And they go, "You're a real ass nigga, you know that?" And I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "Thanks, man. I appreciate that." I didn't think, I was like, I did not expect it to go that way. And they're like, "You want us something to drink? Can we bring you over a drink?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good." And then here, like 2 weeks later, I'm at the Pirates home opener. The Pittsburgh Pirates is a baseball team here in the city. And I was gifted the tickets by actually somebody in the organization. And this is how crazy these people are. If I told you the name of the player that gave me the tickets to go to opening day, they would write a story in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette tomorrow about this player, and they would demand that he disavow me. This is how crazy these people are. They would do that in a heartbeat. And so I go to it's packed. It's opening day. And not one person stopped me. Not one person, confronted me. Not one person punch a Nazi in the face, confronted. Yeah. Nobody said a word to me. And I get it. I'm an intimidating guy. I'm 6'4". I'm 250 pounds. No one's going to really try and do anything. But nobody stopped me. In fact, I got people stopping me going, "Dude, we love your stuff. Your podcast is awesome, man. Like, keep going. Don't stop." Like, that's what I got. I didn't get anything. I went to Pirate games. I've been to Steeler games. I've been to Penguin games. I've gone all around the city and unimpeded. Nobody stops me. Nobody says anything to me. Nobody confronts me about anything. This thing is a joke. It's not real life. People need to get off it as much as they can, because that's not reality. The online is not reality. And these people for a second made me think that, oh, everyone hates me and I can't go out in Pittsburgh. But that weekend I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to work at this strip club and security. And here I got 3 black guys coming up to me, complimenting me on the things I said. So yeah, it's funny.
So 1 second, Dave. I know you got something, Dave. I'm going to give it to you. But you said you wanted to be the embodiment of the 1776 spirit. And I gotta fucking tell you this. So we live, in Northern Illinois. Bald eagles ain't a thing around here. They just aren't. They're up in Wisconsin, like, mid to north Wisconsin, whatever. They're just not a thing around here. I've literally lived in my area for 43 fucking years of my life and never seen a bald eagle. Me and my wife, we have like a pre-show ritual where 10 minutes, like I always fire the feed up 10 minutes beforehand. I got that from Izzo. Thanks, Dominic. It's where his accolades, right?
Yeah.
But I always fire the feed up 10 minutes beforehand. And then 10 minutes before that, we go out and we have a smoke, whatever, and just kind of, I get acclimated to, the show atmosphere, the mentality, the perspective. And we walked out, I shit you not, fucking God may strike my kids fucking dead as I speak. We walked out and we hear this screech and we look up and there was 2 fucking bald eagles about 70 yards from one another flying directly over my back fucking yard. I was like, dude, I got to tell fucking Scott about this shit. And then you said, we're going to try to be the 1776 spirit. And I was like, motherfucker, it was the eagles. It was here.
That's awesome.
All right, Dave, spit it out. Cause I know you've been holding on something there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, it's just amazing to see how far they were actually willing to go to try and cancel you and just like go to your job, you get with your brother, your family. These people are fucking lunatics just by doing stuff like that. And the fucked up thing is like, you mentioned Charlie Kirk when all that went down and you had all these people on the left just, glorifying it. And then they started losing their jobs. And then I noticed like when they started losing their jobs, because now the shoe's on the other foot, they're all like, oh, this is bad. You can't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Just get all upset about it. But it's like, well, you remember you did that to all these conservative people for speaking out against that shit. So if it's good to happen to them, it's good to happen to you.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's fair is fair in my eyes.
Yeah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Yeah, you see, cancel culture works differently on both sides. You know, if you remember, maybe a few years ago, Bud Light kind of went through it, but they didn't get canceled. But they had a spokesperson, Dylan Mulvaney, who was a trans person, be the spokesperson for Bud Light. They got canceled economically. You know, that was bad for business because they saw Anheuser-Busch, their stocks dropped. People stopped buying Bud Light. They were the sponsor of UFC. I believe UFC, you know, dropped their sponsorship for a little bit. So that came at a cost. Like when you get political, it does. This is society. It does come at a cost. In fact, I think that's why, you know, there's a lot of African Americans in this country that are a little older that don't really like Michael Jordan too much. They like LeBron James when it comes to that argument of who's the greatest of all time. Because if you remember back in the early 90s, there was a black Democrat running for a Senate seat in North Carolina. And they begged Michael Jordan, please come out and endorse this guy. And he said, no. He goes, Republicans buy Jordans too. This cancel culture goes on both sides. The right does it with their money. The left does it in a way to ostracize you from society, where they try and put a label on you, racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, Islamophobic. And that deters businesses from wanting to hire you because they go, oh, look what they did to this last employer. Like, don't want to be part of that guy. Yeah. So they make you unhireable. And that's their goal there. So it happens on both sides. The right's just more pleasant about it. Like, if we hated the left as much as the left hated us, we would win. They're winning because I think their disdain for the right is much greater than ours. You make those jokes like, oh, how come the right's not having these type of protests? It's because the right has jobs. You know, we go to work and we don't have time to go out there. And you know, a lot of these leftist protests are being, you know, financially funded by George Soros or other groups. But you know, we just want to live in society and want to say what we want to say and not have the fear of losing our jobs because of it. But that in the society, that is the social consequence of speaking your mind, is that these groups want to silence you and they want to deplatform you and they want to ostracize you from society, at least in the social media aspect around. But yeah, I've been waiting to talk to your co-host here. I'm glad he got on and asked me questions. He's good. I've watched some of your stuff. You're good. I enjoy you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, he just the other day put out the most important fucking video on the internet, in my opinion.
I saw that today. I liked it. I watched it. It was good. It was really good.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that.
When it comes to the canceling thing, I got to tell you, like, first and foremost, like, the people that want the hardest, like the people that try the hardest, the people that want the deepest to cancel somebody are the dumbest motherfuckers on the face of the planet, because I mean, they are the useful idiots, as whatever that dictator called them in China. You know, they're useful idiots. We use them and to clear out the other ones, and then once it's just them left, we clear them out. These people don't seem to understand that, like, what's the end goal? You know, like a complete polite society, because that fucks you too, because you've got some really impolite fucking opinions. You've got some really impolite views of some people that you don't like. So these people, it feels like they operate under this delusion, just completely divorced from reality, that they believe as long as they cancel you, everything will be fine because everybody agrees with me. And then I've seen it, and I'm sure we all have seen it. When that happens, like Dylan Mulvaney, I love when you brought that up, because he found out, he fucked around and he found out that not everybody agrees with him. That dude spit some fucking opinions about a lot of people and everybody kind of just brushed it off. But then that happened, and that was like, and then now you're fucking with our favorite beer kind of thing. We're done. We're done. We don't agree with you. We don't agree with this. And, you know, and having to do with that topic. So that was, you know, the canceling of Anheuser-Busch was that was a moment for me where I saw, like, I had a turning point within my heart, within my existence, for a lot of these big influencers and entrepreneurs that I followed, because let me use one example. Like some of them just pissed me off. I'm like, go fuck yourself. But I want to use one example because he's gigantic. He's one of the biggest dudes ever fucking known. Andy Frisella. I listened to Andy Frisella, and in fact, Andy Frisella's the guy, the guy that, turned this fucking high school dropout into a business owner. He's never met me. We're not friends, blah, blah, blah. I'm not in, whatever. I'm not affiliated, but him putting his information out there, the MFCEO project, is what allowed my dumb ass to start multiple fucking businesses, fail multiple businesses, and keep going, getting the fuck up and starting another one. When that failed, I'm gonna fucking start another one, see if that works. And now we're finally hitting on, I've actually got several things in the works that are working right now, and this is working right now, and he's the reason why. But so I listen to him a lot, and I listen to him very closely because I admire the guy. But when it came down to it, he was talking about the canceling of Anheuser-Busch over this Dylan Mulvaney, and he was saying, we can't cancel. We just can't do this. And it was after Anheuser-Busch, like they were starting to lay people off, because everything was tanking. And he's like, we can't do this because we're affecting regular Americans. And I didn't get pissed off at that, but that did raise a question in me when he said that as to, well, then what the fuck can we do? If somebody fucks us up, or fucks us over, we feel like we got slighted or walked on by a corporation or a person. Now are you telling us we can't fight back? Are you telling us we can only fight back to a certain extent? Like Andy's whole thing is fucking 100-0. You fucking go out there and you dominate, make them hate life because you won so hard. But it was that moment where I was just like, what does winning look like? And this isn't against Andy. This is just me saying he created this thing in me where I had to think, I had to ruminate, I had to go over and analyze this, take this thing apart and go over it over again. So, and I unfortunately, I've never gotten an answer for the questions that he, caused me to raise in myself. And that is, how far can we take the fight? How far should we take the fight? Is it enough? Like if somebody comes out and, not one of us here is a stranger to death threats, So if somebody comes across and says, I'm going to fucking, I had one guy, he's like, I'm going to fucking slit your fucking throat just deep enough so you bleed out slowly and you can watch me rape your wife while your kids are in dog cages and knowing they're next and this and that and the other thing. How far do we take the fight with that guy? If I was to take the fight to that guy, like the people took the fight to you, and I started getting people around him hurt, people around him canceled. In my brain, I'll be honest with you, I don't give a fuck. You're associated with a pile of shit. You deserve to collapse with him. Fuck you. Pick your friends better. However, there is another group of people on the other side, because we always have to flip side it. There is a group of people saying, maybe they didn't know he was a shitbag. Maybe he was the greatest person on earth to them, but like you are, because I'm the greatest motherfucker on earth to the people I love. But if you threaten any fucking bit of it, in fact, I'll tell you, the other night I was on a live feed and got that bitch shut down for death threats. But if you come at me, I don't think the fight is deep enough. But now, all that being said, let me lay out this thing that happened the other night real quick. I got invited on a live broadcast with a couple of friends of mine. There was a couple of their friends and co-hosts and whatever, and there was this other dude. Well, another friend of mine, and I can explain all the names later to you in private, but I'm not going to put it out on the air. But another friend of mine comes on, and he's like, he's like, this is disrespectful or something. Well, we didn't know. So me and my other buddy, we got excited, like, get him on. Well, it turns out he had major beef with this other dude. So the guy that was there, and this dude that came on is like family to me and these other guys. One dude's like, I can't be here. I'm out. He's like, I didn't know this beef was real. I thought this beef was like some internet fake shit. If it's real, I'm out. He left. I stuck around for like 30 seconds and because I was just trying to figure this out. Dude's rambling on, so unprofessional. What a fucking piece of shit that guy was. And I was letting it go because I wanted to get to the bottom of it. But then he's like, and he's not even here so I can fucking smack him. And I just leaned into the camera. I was like, you ever touch that motherfucker? I'm going to end your fucking life. And I cut my feed and he went on talking about it. I just thought that was fun. But I had to apologize to the host because the host of the show is a friend of mine, and I was like, dude, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to get your feed cut by death threats, but that's how people like us are, So when if in a moment like that, it's just that fast. Like I went from your best friend, could be your greatest ally, to now I want to see you buried under the fucking prison, and I'm not going to stop until that happens. Where do we, in your brain, Scott, where do we draw that line?
Well, what that situation with you, what that speaks to me is your loyalty. Once you're loyal to somebody, there's no breaking that, which is with Matty Wack. Now I got pressed on the news here in Pittsburgh. It was like, well, it seems to be that it's more your co-host than you. Do you want to disassociate from him? No way.
No way.
There's no way. There's no way. Matt's like a brother to me. So people that are expecting me to turn on him, they're going to be waiting forever. So that'll never happen. But, that question there is an interesting one. When you ask, how far can we go? Right? How far can we go? Because I know I'm familiar with Andy Frisell in that situation where he's saying, you're hurting people that are maybe innocent.
Yeah.
People are catching friendly fire here when they're not deserving of it. And I just look at the landscape of things, and I think back to the way these people operate. Even going back to the primary election in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. She was on stage with Bernie Sanders and some other candidates, and they asked her, what enemies is she most proud of making? And, all these other Democratic candidates are saying the usual, the NRA, all these different stuff. And she said Republicans. And I thought to myself, well, those are your fellow Americans. And one day, if you are going to be president, you're going to be president of them too. And that's the way they see us. They see us as their enemies. And they're willing to go to great lengths, where I think you and I look, and I don't think we're as malicious as they are.
No.
I don't think we are. I think we're better human beings. Actually, I do. I think we're better human beings than them.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I don't want to see people even canceled on the left, even when they're celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. And let them be that. Let them be pieces of shit. They're putting themselves out there, and they feel the same way about me. That's fine. But I'm not up for destroying somebody's life because they have a moment on social media where they hit send on TikTok and it ruins them and they're unhireable. That's not how I see it. So how far can we go then? I don't know. And it's a great question. I don't have the answer for that. And, I know what Matty Wack would say, if you want me to say what Matty Wack would say. But for me, I don't know. I really, when it comes down to it, I just want to be able to live my life in peace, raise my family, be with my wife, and every now and again jump on a podcast and speak my mind. But that, with views like we have and how outspoken we are, that will get you into some trouble in age. We have to somehow progress this conversation and win over the narrative to where we can actually have these conversations without feeling the fear that, someone's going to threaten our lives or come to our house. And that, what you described there about cutting your throat and putting your kids in dogs' cages, and that's diabolical, man. I don't even have that. I don't have that in me to think about that sort of thing. I just don't have it in me. And maybe that's kind of why we're losing a little bit, is that we don't hate them the same way that they hate us. I don't know. I don't have the answer. It's a great question. How far are we willing to go? I don't know.
It is it's a relatively difficult proposition to even think about, because I do have it in me. Like my thing is I don't want to kill you. I want to blind you. I want to make sure that for the rest of your life who did that and how bad your life is now. Like, I do have that. Staple your eyelids open to your fucking forehead so you watch me do this. Like, I have that in me, but I don't have that in me until you reach, an almost unreachable point with me, but these people seem to want to go there as soon as you go, I don't like your hair, or your fucking septum ring is stupid. Like that's the line. Like, oh my God, you, or even ask a question like, isn't it like, Does anybody understand the Israel influence here? Does anybody understand why black people are doing this in communities? Does anybody understand why the Mexicans keep flooding across the border and wanting to turn it into the same shithole they left? Even if you ask a question, like they think that's where we need to go.
How dare you? Right. Yeah.
Well, it could even be it could just even be a stupid disagreement like well, that wall is white. No, it's blue. No, what I'm saying, they're gonna just find a reason to argue that that wall is blue when it's actually white. That's just the mentality of them lately, and it blows my mind that they're actually like that, to be honest.
Well, it's like I say, people don't believe the truth. People believe whatever they have to believe to make what they currently believe into the truth.
They believe headlines.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other fucking problem. Like, dude, if anybody would read anything, they would. None of the fucking fights, 90% of the fights on the internet would go away if anybody read past a headline. Because like you said, that's half of what got you down is just headlines.
Well, and I think it's the headlines that they put out there as the clickbait for people to click on it. But then when they start to write the story, they put such a twist on the story that paints a picture that is false of the person that they're actually talking about. I've seen that numerous times, just even locally. And it's just like, well, it just, when you start to read it, you have to kind of stop and like reread it again to be like, wait a minute, this is kind of bullshit, But a lot of people don't do that. They see that headline and they're like, oh, this motherfucker. I mean, they've already judgment right away. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that piece could be about something so good that person did. If that headline says that, Joe Schmo did this to this, and that was it, just something bad for you know what I'm saying? It just, people just instantly, it's that headline. And then they make their whole judgment right there.
Great. I agree. 100%.
So what's the future looking like for you? You gotta be, I mean, like, let's be honest, you gotta be enjoying kind of being off of the internet, so to speak, like not having to deal with all that. Like you just get to enjoy your life again. You just get to enjoy your wife, your family. Like you look, I'll tell you this, you look more alive today than you did when we hooked up. Like you look so much more alive.
Yeah, it's been really it's been less stressful. I still have, when we got canceled, it happened all at once. And for people that don't know this, when your YouTube channel, you get banned off of YouTube, you also get banned from using PayPal, and you also get banned from using Airbnb. Tried to book an Airbnb over the summer, and it said I'd violated terms of service. I'd never used Airbnb before in my life. And I was like, wait a minute. And then, Maddie Wack informed me like, hey, you get banned on YouTube, PayPal goes with it, and so does Airbnb. And I'm like, holy crap. Yeah. So
but I don't think anybody knew that. I was right now years old when I found that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no stress here. I'm just I just have taken time away from everything. One of the things too in these situations, you find out who your real friends are. You find out who's gonna stick by your side even with something like that. Because I mean, there were horrible things that have been said about me, and I got smeared in the media. And to be fair, the local news gave me fair interviews. The radio host here in Pittsburgh has the biggest radio show. His name's Colin Dunlap. I thought he gave me a fair interview. The woman that interviewed me, I can't think of her name right now, for the local Channel 4 news action, she gave me a fair interview. In fact, they gave me such fair interviews that Reddit mob went after them.
That's awesome.
And they were just like, whoa, what happened? What did we do? We're just asking questions. And they were like, well, you didn't ask them the right questions, and you didn't push back. And, so, stepping away, I haven't been putting out episodes. I'm on Instagram a little bit. I started another TikTok account, but man, I'm heavily banned on there because all of our content now that Larry Ellison from Oracle owns TikTok.
It's Jew Talk now. China Talk to Jew Talk.
You can't put the content that we put out on there. That gets heavily banned and censored. But I'm still on X, and Matty Wack, he's grown on X. When we got banned, I think I only had 10,000 followers on IG. I have like 25,000 today. So it's like the Streisand effect, right? Where when you tell people, oh, this person's horrible, don't watch this person, what's the first thing they do? They go, we gotta go watch that person, right?
Right.
And you probably know this. YouTube's tough to get popular on, but I found it harder to get popular on Spotify. If you're not, if you're in that space, if you're not a Tucker Carlson, if you're not a Candace Owens, you're not one of the Patrick Bet David, you're not getting really any traction. And, in March of last year, right before I got canceled, I didn't have any reviews. I barely had any ratings. And if you go to our Spotify channel today, there's like 50 something reviews. There's ratings, people, our listener base. I had, people in Denmark emailing me saying, I follow you on Spotify. You guys are great. And I'm like, wow. So, they claim that this deplatforming worked. And if I'm keeping score, I'm thinking, all right, our YouTube channel got taken down. We were monetized. That's a hurt piece. That hurt. TikTok, I had 40,000 followers on TikTok. That got taken down. That one hurt too. Matty Wack got banned on IG. That one hurt. But so we're 0-3 right now. Matty Wack's still on X. He's gotten more popular. He's got almost 10,000 followers. I'm still on IG. The backup account's still on IG. My personal account's still on IG. Got another TikTok, still on Rumble, still on Spotify. So right now I'm counting like what, 7-3, 8-3. I wouldn't call that a complete success there for them. So no. We're still active. And if I wanted to, I could be putting out episodes every week on Rumble. But like I said, I don't have the motivation to do it if Matt isn't beside me, and we're a team here. So if he doesn't want to do it anymore, then I wouldn't do it either. But he still is looking to do this thing, and when he gets healthy, we'll be back again. So we'll get it done. But as far as my my headspace, it has been nice being off the internet more. So it really is nice to not be constantly on your phone all the time. Because like I said, that's not reality. Reality is when you walk out that front door and you go to the grocery store and you go to wherever you're going and you interact with human beings on an everyday basis. And it's like that. This is real life. This isn't the fucking internet.
Yeah, that's an absolute fact, because real life is way different. Like, even me, like, I tell people, like, dude, when I go on the internet, like everybody, like a lot of people recognize me. I won't say everybody. A lot of people recognize me. Like they hear my hook, they hear my voice, whatever.
You have a great stick. You have a great stick. You really do.
But when I'm grocery shopping, not one time is everybody like, hey, that's the fucking guy. No, because that's real life.
Nope, exactly.
It's true. It's true.
And I remember when I took that year off, when I took a year off from all this, just to unplug away from it, it was, oh man, I welcomed it. I came back rejuvenated and like ready to go again. Sometimes you just got to take that time, no matter how long it is.
Well, and it's really like, if you really look at it, for me, I'm, me, I'm the mentality guy. Like I'm all about mentality and perspective. And, some of the worst things in my life that I thought at the time were the worst things to happen to me became the biggest benefit that I've ever been through. Like I had to go through that struggle up front, but then I look back and hindsight's 2020, and I'm like, I look at that and I look at my life now, like, holy shit, my life is fucking amazing. And it's all because you tried to fuck me. Like, and that sounds like what happened to you guys. Like you guys are getting your lives are blossoming into like this really enjoyable thing, and it's largely because they were the bad dad for a second and put the foot to ass, and they ended up just doing you a huge favor.
They did. I think you knew this. I think I told you this. We messaged back and forth on IG and text. We have each other's number and we text each other.
Yeah.
I got offered to go on Jake Shields, and he's reached out to us a couple times. And if he would have reached out prior to us getting canceled, I would have made that flight. I would have gone to Vegas and done the thing. But I honestly didn't even have the desire to do that. I had, Stu Peters that invited me back on again in the winter of last year, and I didn't have a desire to do that either. I'm like, man, if I was still doing the podcast, I probably would have just jumped at the chance to do this. I had Alex Jones people reach out to me and go, hey, we'd love to have you on and talk about some theology, because that was really my wheelhouse. There was the theological conversation. Matt was more of the constitutional, historical conversation. And, I just was like, yeah, I'm not interested. But, when you reached out to me because we had you on, I was like, I have to do this. You're somebody that I admire, and it's been fun to see your progress or your journey because I mean, really legitimately, I started following you. I think you had only maybe 1,000 followers on IG. and I don't have a Facebook or anything. And you blew up on Facebook, you blew up on IG, you're blowing up everywhere, and it's something that I'm living vicariously through you. So all my my motivation and my goals with the podcast now I get to see you do it, and that's good. A guy like you in this space of just being able to share information and have conversations that nobody else is willing to have. The Rants of Izzo show being retired and the Burn Pit podcast being on hold, you're certainly taking the reins and the baton and going forward, and it's great to see.
Well, that's a fucking heavy weight. I hate you for putting that on my shoulders.
Oh, I think you can handle it.
Yeah, I think we can do it. But it's like they say, it's like we're just shark teeth, or terrorists. They like to use that thing. Like if you kill a terrorist, you just create 3 more. If you're the terrorist, or if Dominic was the terrorist, or Matty Wack was the terrorist, and they took you guys down, which obviously we've been through. They didn't take you down. You guys are hiatusing. But there's going to be a bunch more of us. And, some of us are going to stick, some of us aren't. But every time somebody doesn't stick, somebody else is going to try. And it's just incredibly important to keep the conversation. Like you said, it's the conversations that nobody's willing to have that they need to be had the most. Like, this is why we're in this position as a country. It's, being pro this doesn't make you anti that. Being anti this doesn't make you pro that. 2 things can be true at the same time, but we're never going to figure it out if we can't even have the conversation.
I agree 100%.
And it's time that the bubble gets bursted on the people. They need to know the truth. They need to have these uncomfortable conversations. They just need to hear them. Instead of living in this bubble that you think that everything's peachy and hunky-dory like the good old American Pie bullshit, it's not. You need to know what the fuck is going on. And we're here to do that. We're going to rip the fucking face right off of it.
Amen. Good shit. Good stuff. Heck yeah.
Well, on that note, I think this was a hell of an episode, and one day we'll get you back and we'll shoot this shit again and have a good time. And hopefully, fucking Matty's in a situation at that point, health wise, that he can come on too. Because I still love that motherfucker too. Because and I do pop into his spaces every now and then, and he I'll be honest with you, whether it makes me a dick or not, I really, with everything he's going through, like my mother-in-law, I watched battle breast cancer, and she eventually passed and whatever, but I watched the progression of the illness, and I just like how it crushes shit, crushes spirits, crushes voices, crushes ambitions, crushes goals. It ain't crushed a fucking thing, Matty. I still listen to that fucking guy talk, and he has got the same fucking passion and the same fucking mouth that I fell in love with on day one.
Yep, yeah, it's true. He's in spaces all the time, and he's constantly posting. He's growing his following on X, and he was in spaces with the Joker, Paul. You know who I'm talking about?
Gypsy Crusader.
Gypsy Crusader, yeah. He was in a space with him the other day. He's been in spaces with Dan Bilzerian. He's been, and Matty Wack's a voice, and he's saying things that nobody else is saying. Yep. Which is that people need to organize, and there needs to be a show of force, and the voting's not going to change anything. And we're not going to vote our way out of the situation. And no one else is really saying what he's saying, which is you got to organize and have a show of force. So, his voice is needed in this space, in my opinion.
And especially because, let's say we've got all these guys out here, the 440-pound fucking dick bag that can't get to the mailbox without being winded, but he's got a fucking AR and 3 mags full. Like he's going to take the fucking, he's going to lead the revolution. Those motherfuckers, they all come out, and none of them have any intelligence. Even if they've got the rhetoric, even if they've got the ability to speak, they don't have any information, like real information. And that was one of the most mind-blowing things about you and Matty Wack. And if I'm being honest, Matty Wack blew my mind more than anybody, because that dude has got every piece of fucking human history planted very firmly in his brain, and he can pull that bitch out at a moment's notice, just whipping it out like Gambit, throwing cards, man. It's impressive. And that's what, like you said, you were more of the theologian. He was more of the constitutionalist. And what a fucking combination. And I used to, because I've come to you, I'm like, all right, dude, People are telling me this about Jesus. Is this right?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So let's pull this one before we get to the hopelessly human. Scott Siverts, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being on the show, how much I appreciate our friendship, how much I can't look forward to the future for you, for me, for Maddie, for everybody in your world. I hope everything is going fucking awesome. I truly do appreciate you being here for this conversation.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. This has been an honor. This is one that I would never pass up.
That's amazing.
If you want me back on ever, you name it. You name the day, the time, and I'll do it. You made yourself convenient for me today. You did it on my time. I owe you one. So if you ever want me back on, I'll do it on your time.
Absolutely. I got no problem staying fluid. So,
I definitely have Scott Heavy back on.
Oh yeah. I mean, you hear this, dude. His voice is just, it's made for audio orgasms. You know what I mean? If you want to, let everybody know where they could find you. If you got any businesses to plug, go ahead, do your thing.
No, not really. I mean, you can follow me on the Burn Pit podcast on IG, on Instagram. There's a backup page there too. My personal page is Scott Benjamin Siverts. On X, we have a shared, me and Matty Wack have the Burn Pit page on X, but you can follow Matty Wack 1776 on X as well. We have a Rumble channel still. We haven't posted any full episodes in a long time, but you can find your episode on there, Cliff, Savagely Loud. That was a great show too. You're on there, and Spotify, of course, too. We're on Spotify. You can find us on Spotify, and the whole catalog's on Spotify. So you can go back and see, episode number 2 was Dominic Izzo, and he was the second guy that I ever had on the show, and all the whole entire catalog's on Spotify. So you can go there too and check that out. That's the Burn Pit, BERMPIT.
Yeah, I was gonna spell it if you didn't, because I fucked it up the first. I was like, "What's Burn Pit?" Like, I can't find anything. Oh, I found one thing. Wow, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Dave, let them know where they could find you.
All right, guys, you can find me on. So, I'm heavily active over on Instagram and Facebook at The Hammer Drops. Don't forget while you're there to follow and share some of the content that is over there. If you want to get a hold of me, the best way to do that is email at david@thehammerdrops.com. Don't do the DM thing. They're too full, and I'm done trying to rifle through them. It gets old after a while.
I agree. People that don't realize, you have an account that's even over like 10,000 followers. And, I mean, you guys have accounts that are 100,000, 80,000 more plus, accounts there that are crazy, but the DMs do add up, and it's really sometimes just impossible to get through them all.
Yeah.
So the people that are hearing this, it's not because these guys are rude or they don't want to answer. It's because if they took the time out of their day, they wouldn't have a day. They would have to just go through. Yeah. It'd be crazy. So people that don't know need to understand that these guys not responding to you isn't because they don't want to. It's because it just is overwhelming. There's a lot of people. When you have that kind of following, you have that kind of platform, it's impossible to get to everything.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I've got I just rolled 170,000 on Facebook, and I'm approaching 65,000 on Instagram. And, like you said, if I paid attention to the fucking DMs all the time, like, I just wouldn't have a day. I wouldn't have a week. Like, I literally get hundreds of them a day on Facebook now. It's, and a lot of it really is just, story reactions or quick, like, I support you, I love you, whatever, that kind of stuff. I want to get through them. You wanted to get through them. Dave wants to get through them. I'd love to, but there's just not enough fucking time. There's just not. So.
I've actually had somebody email, like, message me, DM me, and one of them that I saw, like, "Hey, why don't you respond to the comments?" Is like, I responded back to him like, "Do you realize how many comments I get on my shit every fucking day? How am I there's no way I can go through thousands of comments and reply to everybody. Right. It won't happen."
Right.
Well, this all being said, what a hell of an episode. If you want to help me out, get these words out, get these truths out, you can follow me at Savagely Loud on Instagram is where I'm most active. On that page, you're going to find 2 links. One of those links is a Savagely Loud podcast page. Please follow me there too. Let's help grow the show. And the other link you're going to find is a simple link tree. Anywhere you want to see my bullshit or hear my rants, you can find it there. Easy peasy. Outside of that, Facebook, X, and Rumble at Savagely Loud. YouTube at Savagely Loud Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. And you can email me in savagelyloud@gmail.com. I strongly suggest you do, because as we just talked about, the fucking DMs are full. So don't forget to like, comment, share the material. Please rate and review the show on Apple iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating. We put it all out on the line for you so that we can start opening eyes and changing minds. Help us out. Help us do that. But without further ado, we've been all the way down in the sticky wickets bullshit today. We don't want to walk away all amped and ramped. So let's just remind ourselves that humanity still exists within humans, with a little segment I like to call Hopelessly Human, and it starts a little bit like...
People can be really rough. They can be quite tough. They can get in the way, but at the end of the day, some aren't only stupid, some are hopelessly human.
Yes, some aren't only stupid, some are hopelessly human, and this one's no different. This one comes from realitypathing.com, and it's labeled The Homeless Man and the Student. In a bustling city known for its fast pace and towering skyscrapers, a university student named Sarah encountered a homeless man named David on her way to class. Instead of hurriedly passing by, Sarah took a moment to engage with David. She noticed he looked cold and tired, so she offered him her spare coat. This simple act resonated deeply with David, who had been feeling invisible and unheard. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah continued to visit David. She brought him food, shared stories, and learned about his struggles. Over time, Sarah organized a fundraiser to help David and find stable housing. With the support of her classmates and community, they raised enough money for David to secure an apartment. This act of kindness not only transformed David's life, but also inspired others to look beyond their daily routines and connect with those in need. That's Hopelessly Human, and that's the show. Later, guys.